Okay, so now we're going to have a look at a short demonstration of Jenkins and how we can use that as part of the continuous integration and how we can employ that to do some testing and how we can show the divide and conquer method of testing. Okay, so now we're looking at the web interface to Jenkins. It's a nice, simple, easy to understand interface. And we can see that we have 3 jobs in our Jenkins setup here, and the main one we're looking at is word count, and this is just some little bit of software that counts the number of words and lines in a text file. We've also got some other jobs, a system test job and a unit test job, which are downstream jobs that are triggered after the main project is built, and these divide up our testing into separate phases. Although in this particular case they're very quick to run, as the project progresses and the tests become more extensive, they usually take longer to run, and it's much better to have them split up in a finer granularity, as Lars showed on his slides earlier. So let's go into the word count project and have a look at that in more detail. So the first thing we can see is we have some graphs showing our compliance level and number of messages from our QAC analysis. I've already analysed a couple of versions, so we can see we've got a very brief history there with some messages, and on the right hand graph we can see that the red line is the total number of messages and the blue line is our message threshold that I have set. I've set it to 35, but perhaps in real life it might be set at 0 to say there should be no violations of the coding standard. The plugin can set the status of the build to unstable if the number of messages exceeds the threshold. So that's what I've got set up here. And over on the left hand side we can see that the build is unstable, so there's a yellow dot by it instead of a blue dot, which would indicate that it's all okay. The artifacts that are archived, which are the useful things that the master can pull from the slave, are the things that we get to keep. All of the other things that happen during the build, such as the object files and any temporary files, are still on the slave. We don't care about them. We don't want to keep them. We've just kept a few of the more important things. So, for example, we have a compliance report, which is created by QAC, that gives us a bit more in-depth summary of our compliance. And we've also chosen to archive our executable as well. So that's the important thing we want to keep. Let's just have a quick look at how we configured the job. So in a job in Jenkins it consists of 3 phases: a pre-build phase, a build phase and a post-build phase. So in the pre-build phase we're checking out some code from a repository. Normally Jenkins would sit and look at your repository and check the code out when it noticed something had been checked in. In this particular case I'm just going to tell it to build a particular branch because it's a lot easier doing a demo like that. We have a build phase where we just run our build command. In this case it's a simple make file, so all I need to do is say make. And then in the post-build section we have various post-build tasks that are done after the main build. The most important one is the programming research report, which tells us how we're going to analyze our project. We're using a project file here. I've given it the path to it. Told we're going to use QAC. I've also turned on the dependency-based analysis so that we only analyze the files that need analyzing. I've set my threshold here to say 35 is my message threshold, and I've also told it that I want to upload the results to QA Verify as well. So we'll save that and then we'll tell it to build now. And so now Jenkins is checking out the code, running the build commands, the post-build commands, and then it's also running some downstream projects as well. In this particular case I told it to run all the downstream projects unconditionally, whether or not they pass or fail. In the real world you'd probably only run the downstream projects if the upstream project passes. So if we have a look at the refresh view there, we've now seen that some of our messages have been fixed. The number of messages has dropped down below the threshold, which is good. Our developers have noticed that the threshold's been exceeded, and they've worked hard to fix some of the issues. So we're back down to having a stable build now. We can also have a look at some of the downstream projects and see that the test results from those, and we can drill down into the system test ones as well and have a look at the test results from there as well, so we can get a really good overview of all the different test stages. If we just pop back to the word counts, we also have a link to the QA Verify server, so we can go and have a look at the results in there as well. So I just log into QA Verify, and I get my own personalized dashboard there, and I can have a look at the word count project. And then as a developer, I'm probably quite interested in where those issues were. I can go in and start having a look at the code itself, where the issues were, and then go and fix them. Of course, I have access to all of the other previous snapshots that have been uploaded, so I can have a look at the history. I can compare two different versions. As a team leader, I can have a look at the diagnostic summary and get some high-level information about the total number of messages, and export that to a format for emailing or archiving. If I'm in the QA side, I might want to have a look at some metrics and the history of the metrics, so I can perhaps have a look at the total number of messages in each particular entity and see how that changes over the period of the project. Okay. So if we go back to the front page, we can see we have a status for each of the jobs, and we can quite easily see which builds have passed, which tests have passed, and which have failed. So that's a very quick introduction and overview of Jenkins.